It is a Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Varied Views. So, guys, from our first episode with Bonnie and Cecilia, we received feedback to put in one room someone who's currently unemployed with the recruiter. And we did exactly that. We are conversing with Koketso Lethlake and Patricia Jacobs today, and I really hope you enjoy our episode. If you haven't, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Varied Views. Tell us a bit about yourselves and what you guys do for a living.
Hi, I'm Koketso. I'm 32, currently unemployed, but I was in the telecoms industry, IT telecoms industry, in the PMO project office. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool.
I can't repeat the same age, unfortunately. So I won't say what my age is. So I'll just start by saying my name is Patricia Jacobs. I'm the founder of Professional Sourcing. And it's been a quite a journey. And I've been in the recruitment industry for over 30 years. Yeah, so that's why I'm not mentioning the age now. And
You don't look it.
and professional sourcing's been registered for 19 years. So we've seen all the ups and the downs. And it's a good industry to be in.
Hopefully, you'll give us all the insights.
I am going to try. I'm going to try.
Yeah, yeah, we cross our fingers. So let's start with you. Like, what positions do you apply for when you're looking for a job?
Look, because I have dabbled in a couple of roles, actually, right? If I tell you the trajectory of my career, it's actually insane. Because I started in sales and then shot straight up into the IT telecoms industry. So the positions that I apply for, because I'm desperate, number one. I'd apply for sales because I've got sales experience. So I'm thinking, hey, why not try that? I'd apply for project coordination because that's my recent title. I'd apply for business analysis because I did a course in business analysis and I did dabble in that as well. So wherever I see that, okay, maybe I've got the, yes, then I'll go for it.
Okay, Patricia, just from having reviewed Koketso's CV, what is your thought on the application and the positions that she's applying for?
Sure. And I think I understand it 100%, the fact that she said, she's done a few things and she, and you get to a point where you're just desperate, right?
Yeah.
The only thing when you get to that stage is that you kind of just focus on one element, and that's getting employed.
Yeah.
And you kind of forget about all the other things that's really relevant, and that's from an objective outside perspective. So the moment I myself being a recruiter look at a CV, I see, when I look at something where it's a lot of everything, it looks like the person's just not focused. You kind of get the feel that the person is desperate, unfortunately. And as much as it's understandable, from a human perspective, I think it is a bit of a disadvantage from a career application perspective, because if you want to apply for professional positions, you kind of not need to put yourself at that next platform and operate from there. Professional sourcing as it is, I don't see myself as finding people jobs or finding people for my clients. I like to view it as assisting professional people in making strategic career decisions and assisting them to find their next corporate homes. And that's why I think we've got a good rapport with our clients, because they trust us to help them do just that, find the people that wants to find their corporate homes with them. So I think it is important, as much as one needs to want to work, and I appreciate that, because there's a lot of people that uses a lot of excuses for not being employed, right? I think it is a good time to take a bit of, to take a good perspective of one's career to date, and really decide what it is that you want to do,
and focus,
on
on that.
that. Absolutely. I mean, you've mentioned one thing now, that you've done a course, for instance, in business analysis, and that's a good course to have. But none of your experience speaks to having experience in that. So you know what I'm saying? So you are competing, if you apply for positions like that, with people that's got the experience, that's got all the right qualifications. And that's why you'll find that the frustration is there, where you just, you sometimes, not even get a response.
Exactly.
And when you do get a response, it's a no.
Yeah.
And after a while you feel despondent. And I think it's just because of that. It's a combination of a few things that's not thought through. And I think that's why, as much as it might be, taking a few steps back then, if that's what you want to do, to start at the beginning again. I mean, you've progressed in other things, but not in that. So you almost can't expect an employer to compensate you for employing you as a business analyst and not having any skills or experience yet. And that's why you'll find that there's going to be closed door, not because you don't have the potential, not because you're not eager enough. It's just because your CV doesn't speak into that yet.
I also have a question here. Like, so the first is, we're talking about having the feeling that you've got the capabilities to do something.
Sure.
Right. And for example, she says, I've been a business analyst. Like in her CV, that's the title that she was given by her previous employers. So, and then we know that now, market-related wise, it doesn't really speak to what actually a business analyst actually does. What are your thoughts about the job titles that we get in organization and the relevancy of them in the market?
Absolutely, and I see that often, and that's why I believe the strength is in getting through to the detail. So what I often do when I look at candidate CVs, and they call themselves, or the company calls them something, and I'm thinking, but that's not what you're doing, It is not that.
It's a bit scammy.
Exactly, So I would take it upon myself to clarify that on the CV, not to state the obvious, which is what your employer called you, because you don't want to.
But say slash.
Yeah, I would say exactly
that.
that.
Relevant.
I would explain it in like next to it. I would say slash consultant or sales consultant or whatever, So people could have, see in perspective, because if they ask for a previous payslip or whatever, and you say, I've been the sales consultant, but on the payslip it says business analyst, they're going to think, oh, there's some question marks, and you're just trying to be, clear on what you did. So I would definitely double up and just explain it a bit better on the CV, because I think what the other thing is, one needs to remember that your CV speaks to the person before you get to do so in person. And that's why I think people underestimate the value of a properly constructed CV.
So what does that mean for a CV to be constructed?
Because that was my question as well. So what does a well-constructed CV look like to a recruiter? Right? When you look at the CV, you're like, this could be the one.
Yeah. Firstly, maybe just taking a step back, if I may, just to put it into perspective, from a recruiter's perspective, right? And we'll get to the question from the candidate side. But I just want to explain it from the other side, so you guys can also understand why we say the things that we say when we say this is what a properly constructed CV should look like. Remember, an employer pays a lot of money to make use of an agency. Okay. So it is almost like presenting like an instruction or a to-do list for us. So for us to be successful in finding the right person for that position, we need to adhere to their requirements. So it's really not up as much as candidates, career seekers thinks it's up to the recruiter. It really isn't. And the thing is that I found throughout the years of being in this industry, as much as you would think, but why is she not trying to fight for me? Why is she not?
Yes.
Why is
Don't
she?
you have a relationship with your client?
Yeah,
Talk to your client.
Can you motivate
Exactly.
for me?
So, and I fully understand it from that perspective. But if you understand the other side, you would also understand why that is not possible if you put yourself into the other person's position. So let's say just put it into perspective. You go to Woolies and you go to buy something that's just that is specific. You want the Woolworths yogurt fat free, and now they've got some other retail stores stock at the back, but it really needs to go because the expiry date is close by, right? I mean, as much as I'm going to offer you buy two and for the price of one, if you adamant in wanting that brand, that's
specific.
that is what you're going to want.
Yeah.
And if the person continue to try and sell you the other stuff at the back room, you're going to actually not want to work with them again. You want to work with a person that's going to give you what you paid for. Right? And that is from the same principle applies in recruitment.
It's the first time I actually think, because I actually think I'm one of the people that have that expectation. Like, I am good. Okay.
exactly.
I am good. Please talk to your client to give me a chance. You know what I mean? I
Exactly.
am definitely like...
So unfortunately, that's not the reality. As much as my heart goes out to people, and I understand that, and but when a recruiter believes in a person, they will go the extra mile to help them where they can, right? But it is important to manage expectations from the start. Because I think a lot of recruiters also don't mention these things to candidates. And then they either just never respond to you, or they don't give you feedback, or you never know these things.
They ghost you, actually.
Yeah, exactly. They ghost you. And that's, I think, very unprofessional. And
So what do you mean they ghost you?
Look.
What experience did you have?
So you'd have a recruiter. No, legit.
They
it's
do
like
do
it's like a
that.
boyfriend or somebody you're talking to suddenly just stops talking to you, and you ask yourself, "But what did I do?"
Yeah.
It's exactly that. So you'll go through the entire process. That gives you hope. So you go through the first interview with the recruiter. They ask for your banking proof of banking. Legit. This is something I went
get
through.
that far?
Yes. So I went as far as doing assessments. I passed my assessment, and now they're asking for proof of banking. I'm like, awesome. This is a recruiter, okay? And then it's time now to meet with client. And then it goes choop still. And it's
What do you mean
quiet.
meet with the client? Like
No,
an
because they
interview
are,
that starts,
yes.
or
And
the
so
offer,
interview,
I'm
so
like-
no. Okay, so a recruiter sends you an email to say, listen, I have a project coordination role, and I think you'd be a fit. Can we meet via Teams or whatever you're comfortable with? Now you're having an interview with who? The recruiter.
Yeah.
That's the first step, right? You meet with the recruiter is happy. She says, look, there's a few documents that I need you to sign and what have you. And in those documents, there's literally your banking stuff, your banking details, right? They ask for that.
Why?
And I'm sorry,
So you
I
know
don't
what
want to
think,
mention this recruiter.
Which part of the process? Okay, so maybe let me let her finish.
Yeah,
this
sure,
and then-
sure.
Cool. There's that section of banking details and proof of banking. And you attach all of that, send it through to the recruiter. Now, this is the second step, right? I went first interview, second interview, you fill these.
You're supposed to now. So they give you the format to the first.
Yes,
start filling it in,
and then you
supposed to now-
submit it to them.
And then,
they
you're supposed to now
say,
meet with the
Yes.
with the client, but you're then
and they don't get back to you.
okay. So I get it. So you know what happens sometimes, right? I mean, I've been in the job. Look, I'm not in the job market now.
No, you're not.
I'm not. You better not show that.
Happily employed.
I'm happily employed. Right, I'm always happily employed. So, so you know what I think, which part of this is? So sometimes, yes, like we've had the first interview, then you decide you like me, so you want to speed up the process. So you sort of like say all the documents that I want, I probably want, because whether with this position or the next position, I probably still use the same form. So this is not the form for the particular role, but for the recruitment
company,
organization
of course.
itself. So then you fill
Yeah.
in those forms, the disclaimer forms or whatever. Do you allow them to do the criminal checks and so you
Yes.
sort of like fill that in for as long as they're still trying to place you and stuff. And I think that's at a part of the process where she was. And then now it's like, okay, then they still need to take a profile, compare it with other candidates in the market. And I think maybe that's where it didn't get to
Meeting with clients.
her meeting with the client. It's more maybe they sent through multiple applications and maybe the client.
Yeah.
Here's the
feels that
kicker,
way.
sorry. Then you, because you're the one that has been applying and what have you, you ask for feedback, right? Only then they say, oh, sorry, the position was put on hold. Do you understand? And it's like, okay, but I waited. No, but I waited this long. Okay, look, and that's why I would ask, what is the process, right? You meet with the candidate as a recruiter or a possible candidate, right? You meet with them, and then what is the process to actually meeting with the client, right? Yes, client needs to approve and say, cool, I want an interview with this person. Is that not how it goes?
I definitely think you've got a point, because unfortunately there are some colleagues in the industry that I cannot align myself to. So, I mean, and what you're saying is very true. And for me as a recruiter, I mean, fortunately, I can say that we work differently because it's a respect thing at the end of the day. I feel that if a person, number one, took the time, apply to your role, even if I don't even end up interviewing that person and the person's not suitable, I believe that person should at least get a regret letter to say, thank you for the application, but unfortunately you're not suitable for this role, but we'll keep you in mind for future roles. Just that little something. And can I tell you something? How many of those we sent and we get thank yous?
Yes.
Because people don't get it from it's not a norm. And for me, that's actually quite disappointing because, people forget that they might also be on the other side one day again.
And also you're dealing with people.
You deal with people, and that person might be a person that's been sending out 500 CVs a day, and it might be that last bit of hope, just to say that somebody acknowledges me.
Oh my gosh, they actually saw my CV.
Absolutely. So for me, that's the least any agency should be doing.
Patricia, like with the feedback, like sometimes you find like maybe you're applying, right? And then like you say in Koketso's example now, she's gone through the entire process. Maybe let's say she went to the first, second interview with a client and she maybe did the psychometric testing and whatever. At this point, you're thinking, I'm far in.
Exactly.
Right? And then
for sure, because the expectation was created.
Yeah, and then now you don't get any feedback. What would that mean from a recruiter? Is it maybe you were still waiting for feedback from your client, and how long does that normally take?
Yeah, well, it depends from company to company. I've got clients, but again, I feel that if you deal with a professional agent, I mean, number one, I would never interview a person if I cannot refer that person for that role based on my screening of the CV. So I wouldn't interview maybes. Number one, I don't have the time, and number two, I hate wasting people's time and my own. So I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't set you up for failure just by keeping busy throughout the day and now interviewing 500 people. So that part should be selective. You should know that you meet the requirements, and the agency basically conducts the competency-based interview that they're supposed to do before referring your CV to make sure that they find out extra things that they might be adding to your profile that you might omitted to put down in support of your application. And that's what I often do when I go through the actual CV. I understand what the person does in their day job. I know what they're supposed to be doing, and I ask them and I add things, or I ask them, whether this is relevant. Won't just add random things that's not applicable, obviously. And then you submit an application through to your client. But for us, it's just number one, common decency. But number two, it's the way that any business relationship should work. There should be effective communication. Effective communication is not hearing from the person once. I want to know that I am in touch with my candidate as much as I am in touch with my client. So I definitely feel it's a recruiter's responsibility to maintain relationship between all three, both parties, and be the middleman person, which they're supposed to be, and keep everybody informed. Because it could be that not just, from that perspective where the employer has got changes in their business, but it could be that you've now attended 5 interviews and, you might be expecting 2 offers. Now, if I don't tell my client that, I think that's also wrong, because I could have prompted them to speed up their process and get you at least a 3rd offer to then think about, and without saying something, it's just effective communication is key in the process. And that's why it's good to connect with a person that you feel comfortable with, and you feel that person's professional in the way that they will, present your application or your profile through to an employer. But we give weekly feedback. On every Monday, my assistant contacts.
You've got
first-hand
experience. I do. I mean, I know. I don't know if I can mention it.
No,
but,
you're welcome.
But NOMSA is like with my
process.
my placement.
Yeah.
Roche, like literally, a week would not go by without NOMSA sending me an email to give me an update.
Correct.
Of what
And that
it
gives
is.
you
And
such a
that gives
peace
you-
of
It's like I
mind.
don't know the answer, but. You know what? Thank you, because at least now I know that the process is still going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if
Absolutely.
it comes back as the no, right?
Exactly.
You are like, but
it's
you know
okay.
what?
You've
Exactly.
been communicating with
Correct.
me
Exactly.
as a recruitment agent. At this point, I'm feeling that relationship built between yourself and myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's how it should be, because, again, it's a respect thing.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's professional, and everybody's, understands where we are in the process. And sometimes, unfortunately, companies do put positions on hold and things. It's not in the recruiter's power to change that, but at least to keep the candidate informed, and then give, throw the ball back into your courts and give you the option whether you want to wait it out and see if this is going to change, or continue applying for other roles in the meantime, because they had the opportunity to consider you when you applied. So at least we're all transparent. Nobody's upset with anybody. And if you do get a brilliant job, thank goodness. I'm happy for you.
But now, are recruiters allowed
Yeah,
to coach a possible candidate?
definitely.
Is it?
I definitely do that for my candidates. And I feel that why shouldn't I help you if I can?
Yeah.
I definitely do. So because that's part of your recruiter knowing their clients, right?
Yeah.
Because I will know stuff that you won't know. For instance, I might be sending you to a company where the dress code is very formal, and, if that means, you got to dress up with your suit and well, hopefully us, not ties, but, your black jacket, your black pants and a white shirt, then that's what you need to do to get the job. But I also need to tell you that up front, not just to coach and help you, but, also to make you aware of what it's like working there. If you're not comfortable,
Prepare
But I
yourself
think
with
when
the
you're looking
environment.
for a job, you don't really think that part through. And I want
Yeah.
to, it's for the first time where I actually think that little bit, it sounds so little,
But it's
a big
actually a
thing.
big thing.
It's a big thing.
because I'm mostly manufacturing, right? So I'm used to wearing my safety shoes,
Sure.
jeans, and it's like, I'm having a good time now. Look at me wearing a uniform. This is me, right? And then I go into a working environment where we are supposed to wear formal every
High
single
heels
day.
and things, and you think you're
I'm not
suffocating whilst you're there.
I'm not coping, guys.
Yeah.
I am not coping.
Absolutely.
It's actually a big
It's a thing.
And also, because
It's
now
a
I'm
thing.
starting to think, this is actually it's reflecting badly on me, because I think everybody on the outside can see I'm struggling.
Oh. So
So that's part of why a recruiter should not just grab your CV off the internet and send you throughout the whole wide world and hope they make a placement. Right? That's what I refer to, recruiters like that I refer to as cowboy recruiters, because they just shoot it from the hip. And if you kind of get that feel that that's where they're going with us, they know you're not in safe hands.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important, number one, besides discussing your CV in detail when I interview, I also afterwards, I explain to the candidate what we're going to do. I'll explain, we're going through your CV, we're going to do this and this and this. Afterwards, I'm going to explain, number one, the position to you, number two, the company, and then the process to expect going further. In all of those steps, I give detail, and that manages expectations from start to end. Because that leaves no room for error or misunderstanding or anxiousness or nothing. Because, I said they generally take 2 weeks before they respond to us. So please don't stress tomorrow and think that it's not going to happen. They take 2 weeks before they come back to us. Why do I say that? I know it. And you can trust me because I manage the relationship. But I've told you it's okay. It's 2 weeks and you're not stressed. We're going to chat to you again. We update you. In any event, you would have heard it from us last week, just to remind you that we're only going to get feedback next week. But in saying that information is really important. And, but coaching, definitely, sometimes it's little things that can help you just to be better at yourself. Most of the time, you've mentioned that, you just never get feedback.
Yeah.
So how do you ever know what you've done wrong?
Exactly.
So if
Especially,
somebody,
sorry to interject, especially with the psychometric testing. I've got a personal problem with psychometric testing because at this point you think I have done well.
Yeah. I'm
And
in.
then you go and write these tests that somehow want you to calculate maths, 50 mathematical questions without a calculator for 12 minutes. I don't know what they want from me, but
Excuse me, I'm just applying to be a project coordinator.
so
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
if you don't get back, obviously now you start thinking the problem went somewhere in
Yes,
that test.
yeah.
And you never get feedback. That test never gives you feedback. It's almost like a wild card
Yeah.
that employers have. Are we going to take her? We're not going to take her. Even if she fails, but we like her, we're going to take her. I don't know.
I don't think it's always just the assessments. It could be. The one thing I can say about assessments, and to a certain extent, I very much agree with you, because assessments are very much dependent on the accuracy. However, is dependent on your mood of the day.
Yes, actually, yes.
It's compiled in such a way that it's so sensitive. If you've got a bad hair day that day, it's going to reflect on your assessment. And that's why they should tell you that if anything has happened that morning of your assessment, you
Don't
had a
take
crisis
it.
situation, whatever, you should make the assessor know of that, so they can either take it into consideration or postpone your assessment, because it is subjective to your emotional state of mind. The
that's
other thing,
interesting.
absolutely, and the other thing is that you just the timing of doing your assessment. Sometimes, being a working person and they request you to do a psychometric test, you don't have time during the
you
day
just want to get
to
it
do
done.
these things. You just want to do it, so you might just quickly log in at your lunch hour. Now,
Yes,
oh my word,
and
there's
just
2
do-
maths questions without a calculator.
Yeah.
So or you do it. You decide, no, listen, I'm sure Murphy's law. The boss will come in right at that time when I'm busy with
Yes,
him.
and now you have to take your pause.
Exactly. So then,
Yes.
but the one thing to remember with the psychometric test is it's a bad idea to not do it first thing in the morning. Because why? Remember, you are fresh in the morning. Your best hours are first thing in the morning. So you either ask for them to release it early hours, like prior to your day starting, or you ask them to release it to you on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever, like a day where you can literally commit to locking your door. If it's a 3-hour
and
psychometric
take
test,
that test.
take the test,
Yeah.
keep your cell phone out of the room. The moment that you stop or glimpse or respond to something or answer the door, that moment or 2 moments can also affect your results because it shows that your thinking ability slowed down. Where it's not relevant to that, but it's subject to the information that they get. So they measure everything, time, and it's very sensitively compiled. So those things you've got to keep in mind when doing psychometric tests. Early morning, insist on doing it first thing in the morning, either day that it suits you, or if it needs to be in a controlled environment where you're actually required to go through to the offices of the psychometrist and actually do it there, where they can ensure that you're not interrupted.
It's also then safe to say that the psychometric testing can't be the sole decision.
Absolutely not.
So they have to use it in conjunction with everything
But they should.
else.
I mean, and most employers do. So it's often not that costs you the position.
Maybe you couldn't read the room.
You know what? Exactly right. Telly, you're saying such a wise thing there, because that is exactly what sometimes happen. I speak to people and then you'll, ask them, how many, have you been applying for jobs? Yes. I've been going for like 20 interviews.
That's a problem.
And all of these companies that, everybody's being so unfair to me. Nobody gives me feedback. They ghost me, and then I'm thinking,
Yeah.
What is going on?
What's going on? It's a lot going on.
can it be the 20 employers, So, and exactly that. So then you need to start thinking of, let's just self-assess here.
Yes, what's going on? But I always say, as much as companies are looking for a perfect fit as a possible candidate or as a possible employee, I'm also looking for a perfect fit for myself. Do you understand? Because, they ask at an interview, what questions do you have? And the first question I ask, is there an open door policy?
Yeah. Why do you feel like that is an important question to
The
ask?
reason that's important to me is because I'm going to be new in that environment. I want to be able to ask as much as I can so that I learn, right? I'm learning different personalities. I am learning the way of how that company does things. I'm learning their culture. I'm basically an infant in that company at that stage.
So you want to be able
So
to
I
ask
want
as
to be
many
able
questions.
to be free, right? Go have an open door policy. I want to be able to go to my manager, Taylor, and say, listen, I see this is how you guys do things. Can you walk me through this? Without me feeling intimidated or feeling dumb, or feeling, but you got the position, so you need to know exactly what you're doing.
But this is a fair point, and I want to hear your thoughts here, Patricia, because you know what, some companies, and especially companies now, if we're looking at maybe, we can even say the after effects of COVID, is that companies don't have the time.
Yeah, they
to
want
train.
you to
They
hit
want
the
you to-
ground
you
running.
To hit the ground running. There's no time to train you. So what is with that in mind? What is your thought with what she's saying now?
I think your question is really very relevant. I would just, my thoughts were Telly's thoughts when you said the first question you ask them is, do you have an open door policy? So if she didn't pose the question, what do you mean by that? I could have come up with a lot of my own thoughts. I can think, oh my word, she's trouble. She's going to be at my desk every 2 seconds. She's going to complain about the coffee,
and that, and they
the
do ask
aircon.
her, what do you mean?
You know? But with the main thing is, and this is something important to remember, whether you're compiling a CV, whether you're sitting on an interview, is never leave room for doubt. Be clear in your explanations. And because you know what, can I tell you something? The thing that people do, this is human nature. If you and I have a discussion and I am telling you, a lot of excellent things, you love what I'm saying, and I say one thing that's going to be offending to you, what are you going to remember about me when we leave this room? Correct.
Course.
You will not remember the whole hour that we spent together. You're going to remember the one bad thing. And that's exactly what employers are like. So when you are, or when people that screen CVs are like, the one time that they get to assume something, they're going to assume something bad.
Yeah.
We've no room for assumption. No room for assumption. Especially when people put things on their CVs like reason for leaving, personal reasons.
Yo.
And then you see it again later on, personal
Personal
reasons.
reasons.
You're
This
always
person is a
leaving.
nutcase, let's just move on. So it's like, and it could be different, it could be legit personal reasons. And I wouldn't say, tell your life story there, but say, mom fell ill, had to support mom full time, relocated back to Durban 6 months, moved back, whatever, that's
But
fine.
give an indication what the
Exactly.
reason. So I think that's because most of the time you just know, it's easy to just say I stopped working here because I was on contract or I resigned. So I think I'm thinking possibly I could be guilty of not being too detailed on my CV, but I'm thinking, look, as long as I'm not fired, right? As long as I'm the one that's leaving, that should be okay.
But now,
but for me, my reasons are all it's like I did the same. I made the same decision that I
Twice.
made.
More than
Twice.
once.
Like I stopped for completing my undergrad and I stopped again for completing my SEMA. And both reasons are to going back to school like full time so I can complete what I started. And I always think about that. I think probably this might just work against me because it's like she's not gonna if she says she's studying now, we're not
then she's
employing
studying.
her.
Yeah.
Because she's gonna leave.
Also, why is resigning from a job frowned upon so much?
Why do you mean?
And I say that because they'll say, okay, so why did you leave here? And you're like, I resigned. The expression is like, okay,
why did you resign?
And then you're like, okay, even though you want to give the real reasons why you resigned, they weren't paying me enough. You can't necessarily voice it out like that. There must be a way that you need to sugarcoat it, And then it's like,
Diplomacy
again,
works.
there's room for doubt there on some, this one leaves. She just leaves, She just leaves because we couldn't give her a raise this year.
What's your thought on that, Patricia?
I want to take a step back again to put it into perspective, right? Because I understand it, I mean, no employer owns you, okay? They employ you, so they have right to your services for the working hours that they employ you at. So people are free to resign, that's fine. But again, put yourself onto the other person's shoes, right? If you are the employer and you want to invest in a person, employing them at your company, providing them with the training opportunities available, perhaps even if companies have like nice benefits like study benefits and things like that, you want to know that you're going to put your money to good use and invest in somebody that's
And
going to
get your return,
stay with the company. So you've got the right to ask all these in-depth questions. Because remember, there are a lot of people out there. So you want to make sure that you give yourself the best option of choice. And therefore, they ask all these probing questions. And it's good to ask them because they get to know you better, but you also get to know them better in the process.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to get back to your question, why is it frowned upon? So just keeping that in mind, why an employer needs to know these things, right? So resigning is not a bad thing, but if you resign every month or every second month or every 6 months or every year, then
you have a
resigning
problem.
becomes a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I've got a question on this a little
Sure.
bit. So let's say this is Koketso, right? Today, after talking to us, she decides, you know what, my goal is to be a business analyst. Yeah. Like a real one this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. A real
Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And then she's like, okay, what do I need to get there? This is my target. This is where I'm going. I need to have this qualification. I need to have this experience, right? Then let's say Koketso then finds a job, right? The first start that can enable her to start with her studies, let's say, at this point. Now she's got her goal here. And she's starting from this point. Obviously, now it means every decision that she makes has to be towards achieving
that
this goal.
goal, yeah.
And some would mean that she would need to start making decisions that are not going to be favorable potentially for
To
the
the-
employer,
yeah.
but they're going to be favorable towards her achieving this particular goal. What do you then say at the end, like in that light? Like she's got her own goal, she wants to achieve it, and sometimes she might need to have certain experience, and this other job is given that experience because now she has to be able to be on like aware with regards to what's happening in the market. So she has to take any opportunity that comes her way before she can then reach that, and that would then reflect as her job hopping, but she's merely trying
Yeah.
to reach her goal.
But that's bad. That's bad. Because what the whole process that you've explained is just selfish. Okay? So why would anybody want to hire a selfish person?
Exactly.
So what following that route is selfish because you're just thinking of yourself and how you
and
can
use-
use employers as stepping stones to get to the next step, the next step, the next step. And in the process, you are just adding on to your unmarketability because again, it's not focused. You've been making desperate decisions to get to that next step, next step, next step, next step. And there are better ways to think it through strategically and think of a better way to get there.
And it never stops.
It never
Yeah.
stops.
Once you
It
start,
snowballs. Absolutely.
it never stops.
It's like, people go into wrong relationships and they keep on repeating that.
Yeah.
Repeating
Yeah.
that.
That's
insanity.
Where
Yeah.
does it stop? And the same principle applies to career seekers, That's what I said to you in the beginning.
Yeah.
Stop. Think what you want to do, and think of strategic ways how to get there strategically, even though it might mean to take a few steps back. What does that mean? It means, okay, let's go and see the typical profile of the person that's successful in that industry, right? I would make contact with some of the people that's made it as business analysts
Yeah.
and get their input and look at what they've done in order to get there. So the logic thing for me being a recruiter is number one, yes, you need a proper degree because you're competing with people with
that are
proper
qualified.
degrees.
Exactly.
Okay? However, in the meantime, you've got to eat, right? So you can't, and how are you going to pay for this
the degree.
if you're not eating?
Yeah.
So understand that. Then the next best thing is to go to companies where that specializes in employing business analysts and ask them if they've got internship opportunities available.
Okay.
Where they will be willing to give you the opportunity, even though you might not start out as a business analyst, but the progression
will
be to
eventually
move
But,
lead
into
you there.
but does age not play a factor there, Patricia? Like, let's say if like I'm now 30, I'd like to say 35. I'll say 35. So like I'm now 35. I mean, I can't be and like go and become an intern.
But why not? If you know where you're going or where you
close
want
to
to be.
retiring at this point.
No.
At 35.
You're close. And if you're going to be an intern from the
Listen,
age of
I love the
35,
way the way you're going with this. To be a millionaire by age 40 to retire, but the majority of the population aren't there yet. So 30, 32, 35 is not
Sure.
over the wall yet.
No, but I think you get what I'm saying.
I
Okay,
hear
let's
you.
not
Get
say
what you're saying.
35,
No,
let's
I
say
hear you.
40 there.
Yes.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like age also
But that
plays-
is why I'm saying make a calculated decision as to what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And if it's that important to you, you'll be willing to sacrifice taking the steps back. I mean, I have literally seen a 40-year-old go back and do articles, and she became a CA.
Yeah.
Because she was a bookkeeper her whole life.
And she's like,
And then,
yeah.
she was, and she got tired of CAs looking down upon her because she felt that she knew more than some of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I mean, whether she was right or wrong at the time, she went to
doesn't-
prove them differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she said to me, she was the oldest person in that entire group of BCom grads, but she did it
She
and
did
she took it
it.
on the chin. Yes, she was the one that baked everybody muffins on a Friday, but she did
She
it.
was the mother of the, the group.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and they loved her for it, but she became a CA.
At the
But
end
she
of
sacrificed for it, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on how badly you want it.
That's true.
But somewhere you've got to stop with this rat race of stepping.
Yeah.
Now, is it okay to tailor make my CV to be suitable for the role that I'm applying for? So can I now subtract or take away or remove some of my experience, right?
Isn't that what is expected if you're applying for a particular job? You're being told now to tailor your CV.
So I'm asking this because I recently went for an interview. It was actually meant to be a Teams interview. And I was like, nope, I'm not having it on Teams.
You wanted
I
to do it.
wanted to be a personal
Good for
interview.
you.
Right? And I said to that agency, I said, look, I can't do Teams. Can I come to your offices? Right? And she was surprised. She's like, okay,
I wouldn't suggest
who
that.
wants to...
I will do it, Teams.
yeah, and she was like, okay. And she said, no, come through.
Can I
10
tell you
o'clock.
something? She'll remember you for doing that because you were the one that was willing to sacrifice to
Yeah.
meet her in person. That already gives you 10 points extra. So
Yeah.
well done for doing
And
that.
look, I
That's
asked for...
impressive. I'm impressed.
It is
I
impressive.
asked for the location. I'm like, send me your location.
amazing.
I didn't even know how I was going to get there. But I
got
said,
there.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a plan.
Yeah.
Look, I got there. My interview was at 10. I got there at 9:30.
Yes, you'd rather wait a little bit
Yes.
before
Well
you
done.
I got there, sat,
yeah.
okay, they gave me coffee, what have you, went in. And she said to me, I can't believe that you're here. But okay, let's do this. And what she said was, I am going to tailor make your CV, right? As a recruiter, I have a responsibility to you and my client because I'm not just going to submit, not that there's anything wrong. Okay, this is how you have your CV. Good and well, you think this is how it should look. But for my client and for me as a recruiter, I'm going to tailor make it. And we had a conversation as opposed to having an interview. She said, tell me a story. What is going on here? Because I need to know, again, what is it that you want to do? This is the role that I have, right? And I see you've dabbled in a lot of things, but the onus is on you to say this professionally or career-wise, this is where I'm placing myself. And she, I don't want to say interviewed me for all those roles or little things that I've done, but each and every role that I've been in, she asked me questions about it. So you say you did this. What does your day look like as a project coordinator? And I had to list my daily duties. Okay, awesome. You've got that. As a BA, what was your daily role? As a sales, whatever. So she gets it. And then she looks at me and she says, when you speak about a certain role, you're more passionate. I'm guessing this is where you want to be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, no, you're right. This is the role that I'm interviewing for. So therefore, I'm going to tailor make it to that. I'm going to send it through to my client and I'm going to push for you. That was the first time ever.
So
A
you
recruiter.
then had a sense that, wait, is that allowed?
That, because I'm like, this has never been done before.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know what it, okay, I think
Yeah, I was taken aback because I'm like, you're willing to, and she said, my client is very hectic, just by the way.
yeah. So
you know?
sorry, I'm a bit because I've got another question. I'm gonna lose my thought. Please,
Okay.
please remind me. It's got to do with teams.
Teams,
interviews.
okay.
Yeah, please remind me if I forget. But on this topic, yeah. My understanding, and I think it was from also another interview that I had with Cecilia and Bonnie, and they saying that from them on their side, like I think I asked them a question about, if I remember correctly, was to do with CVs and getting like those professional built CVs, and they still said that they put their CVs in their own format. So meaning it goes without saying that when I send you my CV, you would obviously maybe highlight the CV to the job that you're
Correct.
currently recruiting for.
Yeah.
It's not something out of the ordinary
No.
that she has experienced here now.
I want to congratulate you. You've attended your first competency-based interview correctly done. That is what you did. So you met with a professional recruiter, and that is wonderful because that is what it's supposed to be. So like I said, unfortunately, you get all sorts of people in all industries, right? And there are colleagues that just does this for the money.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they want to make the placement run and get
that's it.
the money,
The money
and
and
you never
done.
see and hear from them again. And those are fly-by-nights. They might be successful for the short term, but long term, you won't hear from them again. And in the industry. So you want to speak and connect with people like that, because that's exactly what a recruiter is supposed to do. How can I represent you well if I do not know anything about you? And it's not about taking things out of the CV that's, you know, I would never take, information out. I mean, I'm there to put information in. But, you know, I would never change something like, I mean, I would lie and say that you've never worked at that company where you've worked at that company, because, but it's important to, like you just said, Tele, that to know your client. And if they are looking for a business analyst with this and this and this and this skills, then everywhere in your CV where you've done that, we would like to mention that first.
Okay.
Because that is speaking the company's language.
Yeah.
You want to make it easy for them to see the relevant things. Because remember, time is also nobody's friend. So a client is not going to go through your whole CV and look for things that is relevant. No, they've got 10 applications. They want to see who's the top 5. And we as recruiters need to know what are those things that's key points to them. And we need to know how to position your CV so it stands out.
Okay.
And I would not know that if I've not chatted to you in depth and I've done a competency-based interview. Because it's not just about, oh, you've worked there, you've worked there, you've worked here, and you've got this qualification. Thank you, goodbye. No. By the time that you leave that interview, she knows everything about you.
Yeah.
She knows your thinking. She knows your personality. She knows what you've done. And she knows what will work best for you. And that is part of having a recruiter help you find that corporate home. I always say, let me help find you the corporate home. Because corporate home means there's a few ticks. It's not just matching skills to a job spec. It's meeting culture fit.
Yeah.
You know, just to mention that on top of what you said before, I resigned because they paid me too little. So why did you accept the job?
First of all, because you knew the offer.
You know?
You're desperate. You're trying to get R1. Well, half a loaf is better than nothing.
Another thing, Patricia, what I find difficult, right, when now they start asking about your expectation. What is your salary expectation? And I'm like, this is the deciding factor. I don't know if I should go low or I must, Then they ask you, okay, what is your current cost to car? And then you tell them. And they're like, okay, now we'll have a look at the budget. In most cases, they have the budget. But because maybe I was earning 3,000 Rand, they're like, oh, okay, we'll give it 6,000. And it's like, shoo, do I really have to answer that? And the whole submitting your recent payslip.
That's a good question.
Sure.
Why?
Those are good questions.
Yeah.
Do we have time? Can I?
Yes, please.
Because I mean, we can carry on with this like a few days, I think. But just to come back to the prepping bit, this is part of the prepping that I do for candidates, because how often do you have these questions in an interview that you do not know how to respond without shooting yourself in the foot?
Yeah.
And if you cannot ask someone what is the appropriate way to answer this, how will you ever know?
Yeah.
So that's what I do in prep sessions.
Okay.
I help people. I say, what do people ask you that you can't answer? Let me help you.
The money. Ooh.
Okay, so that's
That
one
one
of
gives me
that's a
anxiety.
big one.
Yeah.
That is a big one, right? So number one, if you ask for too much, they'll think you're just there for the money.
Yeah.
If you ask for too little, they think jackpot. Let's
go.
Let's let's squeeze blood out of this rock. Okay, so you don't want to go either way, but you also don't want to cost yourself the position.
Yeah.
So the best possible way, without putting yourself in jeopardy there, is to throw the ball back into their court. I would always say, Mr. Client, thank you so much for that question. And as much as money is very relevant, I would love to know what your salary on offer is for this role, because I would want to believe, being an above standard employer, that you would pay market related salaries in line with the position
I
requirements.
like that.
Listen, you're going to have to write that down for me.
I will, no problem.
That
I'm
is my
taking it
answer
too.
exactly like that.
Oh my God. Because I was actually, as you was talking about it, I'm just like, No, wait, but
You there is a budget
No, I
for
must
this.
have my own budget at least and say this is my minimum.
But you know
Because
exactly.
if they give you an amount, they might just give you an amount that is way
Yeah.
higher,
Higher than
you
what
are
you-
thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about the team situation. So
Sure.
most people are like, especially if a person is like looking for work and stuff, right? Like most people are having a challenge with the expectation of like interviews, because you must imagine
Sure.
cash flow is a problem
Yeah.
at this point.
Definitely.
And most people are also having a problem with going for having to go and drive for interviews. And what are your thoughts on that, and why is it that most can we just not have like teams interviews, considering the cash flow constraints of a person that is looking for
I
a job?
definitely think that, COVID was terrible, but COVID brought a lot of good things.
Yes.
And that was one of them.
Yes.
Where 95% of all the interviews that I used to do was at my office. And now it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm also like that recruiter. I'm like, what? You want to come to my office? Fantastic.
And for me-
and I'm in withdrawal because I'm seeing a person in person. But 95% of what we do is online.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's fine, but I think that's a topic for another day.
Yeah.
But it's then to get the etiquette right for Teams interviews, because people don't know this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't wear your sweatpants down here and your shirt down here and think we're not
Please.
gonna see it.
And position the glass of red wine outside of the screen. It's like,
No, when I do a Teams interview, I will literally dress up like I'm going to the actual interview.
but that's the right
That's
way.
the right way.
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
You're
So
there.
Patricia, I just wanna touch on this. We're about to close off. I think we've taken a bit like 10 minutes from your time.
No problem.
So we know the current problem, like in general right now, we know that most of our graduates are struggling to find work, and partly because of not having enough experience.
Yeah.
And we also know that when we're talking internship, I think there's not enough internship to
Absolutely.
cover all the qualified people. What advice would you give somebody who is in undergrad and the experience part? What do you think they should be doing to get the experience required?
That's an excellent question. And I think there's no one answer to that. But a guideline is become the person that stands out in the crowd. Be that person that says, can I come to your office for the interview? I would love to meet you, if that's a possibility, okay? Be the one that stands out. Be the one that showcases that you're different from the rest. You're not just, how do you differentiate between graduates? They all come with the same qualification.
But I mean, the grades, the grades work?
Obviously grades also, it is important. So but if you're not the one with the top grades, how do you get the job?
Exactly.
Be the one that stands out because of displaying willingness, attitude, eagerness, and being that person that's able to think outside of the box. It's very easy to ignore an email application, but it's very difficult to ignore the person right next to your desk. Be the person that thinks differently how to apply yourself. Network. Ask people that you know if they can put in a good word for
you.
yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard about it. A lady that came with a friend to the friend's work function on a Friday after work, and she just attended, and in the process, the friend's boss liked her so much. He says, "What do you do?" And she started telling him, and he says, "Send me your CV." And then Monday she had a job offer.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's you never know when you'll have that opportunity.
That small window of opportunity.
But be yourself. Put yourself out there for all the right reasons, and be the one that stands out in the crowd. Think of ways to stand out in the crowd and be the one that's
like
different.
it. I was thinking about it, right? And I was also thinking, there's right now, the online platform is providing also opportunities. Like, for example, if I'm thinking of Take a Lot, there's a lot of like these drop shipments that sort of like provides you with, if you look at it, basic experience in terms of conducting. So I was thinking, if back in the day we were doing waitressing while we were going to school, I would kind of think like a person who is like in undergrad, maybe they should start looking at things like that, because then they would be acquiring their experience as they go, and they would have something to give on their CV. Yes, it won't be answering everything, but it can at least show initiative.
That exactly.
But you see, I think with that, you see how you're thinking. The next person isn't thinking like
Okay,
that.
we get I'm a little crazy. We take it.
No, and I think because we are, I don't want to use this word, but we're entitled, right? You thinking because I'm a graduate, they need to hire me, right?
Shame.
But that's the reality of it, and unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. You have to be hungry enough.
Correct.
And I don't mean like you have to want it
enough.
enough
And I think that
for
is
yourself.
also a question to ask. Are you finding? I don't want to label people, and I'm not going to do it, but I think we know what I'm talking about. Our graduates. A lot of people, they're saying they're lazy, self-entitled, instant gratification.
Yeah.
You dealing with a whole range of age groups. What experiences are you having in this dynamic?
I can concur. That's what I'm saying.
And look, it shows in the office, hey, that who's entitled and who isn't. It really,
True.
really shows.
It is true.
They work,
Is
speak
it a
for.
frustration or is it a paradigm shift?
No, it's a huge frustration. And I think, people, I mean, if we really want to unpack this, we'll have to take this down to kindergarten because this is where the bad habit starts. Children are in charge these days of their households.
Yeah.
And they think they don't even consider the fact that it should be different getting into the workplace, right? And that's where you sit with us. And that's a big problem because there's no such thing as let's start somewhere, work ourselves to the top, and be the one that's got a solid foundation first, and there are no gaps in your building blocks.
Yeah.
People want to study again and do an MBA, no experience, and be the CEO of the company.
It doesn't work that
how are
way.
you going? But also, would the MBA program accept them to come through with other
Telly,
experience?
I have got no idea. That's an excellent question. I need you to pose this to all the business schools out there because it is a problem. It is a problem.
Because you definitely can't be an accountant, a chartered accountant, or CASA if you don't have your articles.
Can I tell you how often we come across that? And they don't just expect the next CEO job. They literally believe that it's fair to jump from 40, let's say 20,000 rand a month to 80,000 rand because of that.
A house, we.
Yeah, because now I've got the MBA.
It's crazy. All right, guys, I think we've come to the end of our show. I've got so many questions. We definitely would like to have Patricia again. Patricia and Koketso, thank you so much for coming through. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Only a pleasure. Lovely
was
being here. Thanks for all the good
amazing.
questions, ladies. I loved responding.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insight. It's sure. I learned a lot.
Oh, wow. That's...
I really, really did. And some of the things, you overlook them until you hear them to say, no, listen. You don't need to have all of that in your CV because your CV is you before meeting the actual person. Yeah. So thank you for that.
It's been my pleasure.
I'm super grateful. Thank you. We'll talk.
Yep, that was insightful. Thank you so much for watching our video till the end. Please share your thoughts in the comment section down below. And don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and leave your fingerprint on that like button. I'll catch you in our next episode. Peace be with you.
Bye.
1, 2,